What is going on, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David, and in this video we will be talking about Vlans, trunks, and VTP. And VTP stands for Vlan Trunking Protocol. Excuse me, sorry about that. So we will be configuring VLANs and trunk ports and VTP. So we'll start off with Vlan Trunking Protocol. What is it? VTP, better known as Vlan Trunking Protocol, is a protocol that allows VLANs to traverse through trunk ports, hence the name Vlan Trunking Protocol. This protocol is used on trunking ports, and again is used to allow VLANs to traverse through the trunks. And I'll show you all what I mean once I configure all of these ports right here as trunk ports. And with VTP, we have three different modes that you assign the switches to. You have server mode, which is basically the server that's in charge of distributing VLANs to the switches. You have the client switches, which once they receive the VLAN information from the server switch, it takes that information, stores the information in its configuration or the VLAN.dat files or whatnot, and then it passes the information on to the next switch. And then you have transparent mode, where the transparent mode is just like, you know what, I hear you, but I'm not going to pass this information forward, nor am I going to store it. And I'll show you all what I mean by that when I configure these switches. So the plan is, as you see the distro switch, this is going to be our server switch. This is going to be a client switch. This will be a transparent switch. And this will be a client switch. And the same will be over here. This will be a client switch, transparent switch, and a client switch. And a trunk port, meaning trunks, they basically, again, it works along with the VLAN Trunking Protocol, is actually a part of that. So a trunk port is a port where VLANs are able to traverse through the trunking port. And I'll show you all what I mean right here. So we'll start with the distro switch. And as you can see earlier, the only configuration that I've done on this switch was name it distro, and I just gave it the spanning tree VLANs for 1 through 4094 VLANs. I put 67 because I didn't feel like doing the math, and as you can see, I use this number right here because I didn't want to use 8192, although I could have used it. I just wanted to be creative and use a number that I don't see a lot of people use, which is 12,288 as the priority number. So I haven't done anything with this switch as far as giving it the domain name or giving it the mode that the switch should operate as. So we'll start right now. Enable. We're coming to global configure. Matter of fact, before I show you all this, let's run some verification commands. So I will use a show VLAN brief, and as you can see, I don't have any VLANs created. And if I do a show interface trunk, there's nothing. If I do a show IP interface brief, as you can see, these other ports are down, and the only ports that's up are the ones connected to the switch 1 and switch 4. So what we'll do is we'll go into a global configuration mode, and what we would do is, first off, we would do VTP. Matter of fact, let me go back. I'll show you another command, a verification command, and that is show VTP status. As you can see, this switch is the server switch. It only has 5 VLANs, and those VLANs are right here. VLAN 1 is by default already on the switch, and VLANs 2 1002 through 1005, and you cannot modify these VLANs. So anyways, a matter of fact, let me go to this switch and show you all something right quick. Enable show VTP status. As you can see, this switch as well, the VTP operating mode is server mode, and there is no name, no VTP name. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this into a client mode switch. But before we do that, let me go ahead and just turn off the interface. So we're going to conft interface fast Ethernet 0/24, and we just do a shut. As you can see, this interface is down, and we're going to shut down the interface between this switch and this switch 2, between switch 1 and the distro. So we'll turn this interface off as well. So we'll go to interface gig 0/1 no shut, and this interface is down. So we'll start making our configurations, and what we would do is we'll create 5 VLANs, VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. We'll start that from the distro switch. So we'll go into conft, we'll go to VLAN 10, we'll just give it a name as HR, VLAN 20, we'll name you accountant, VLAN 30, we'll name you engineering, VLAN 40, name help desk, and VLAN 50, we'll just name it sales. So these are the 50, not 50, but these are the 5 VLANs that we have created. Now mind you, and let me save this. Now mind you, I have not configured this switch with any VLANs, nor have I configured this switch with any VLANs, nor have I configured this switch with any VLANs, and the same goes for these switches over here as well. I have not configured these switches for any type of VLANs. So we'll go back to the distro switch, and what we would do is we would now, let me minimize this port right here, we would turn this port into a trunking port, and you can go up, and the way you configure this port is we go to conft, which is global configuration mode, and what we would do is it's interface gig, is it 101 1/0/1, there we go. And what we would do is we would do switch port mode trunk. That is the command that you want if you want to turn this port into a trunk port. So switch port mode trunk is the command that you program the port be. And as you can see, it says, oh, okay, I see what happens. So it says command rejected. An interface whose trunk encapsulations auto cannot be configured to trunk mode. So basically what that means is I have not added the encapsulation.1q command. So we'll do that right now. Switch port mode trunk encapsulation.1q. We'll go to context sensitive hub and see what happens. Switch port trunk encapsulation.1q. There we go. And then we do switch port mode trunk. And what we would do is on this switch right here, and let me save it. So I do a do copy run. Oh, do copy run start. Yup. So that's saved. So what we'll do is come back to this switch over here. We go to interface gig 0/1, and we will do switch port mode trunk. And on this switch, I don't have to do a switch port trunk encapsulation.1q. That command is not even supported on this 2960 switch. Watch, switch port trunk. And if the question mark for context sensitive help, it doesn't even give me the option to put in encapsulation. So all we have to do is put in switch port mode trunk, and this is not a trunking port. And we will do the same for fast Ethernet 0/24. Switch port mode trunk. So thus far, this port going from this switch to this switch, this is a trunk interface, and so far this is a halfway trunk interface. I have to configure this switch right here to be a trunk port. So I'll go into this switch and we'll configure this as a trunk port as well. So we'll do conf t interface. Let me go back right quick. Let me see which interfaces this is. This should be 24 and this should be 23. There we go. So okay. So we'll just do an interface range command on this command line. Interface range fast Ethernet 0/23 through 24. Switch port mode trunk. We'll save this command, and you see it went down, but it's going through the listen and learn state or whatnot. So this will actually come back up, and that's part of spanning tree, which I will talk about in a later video. So anyways, what we've done thus far is we've configured 5 new VLANs on this distro switch. We configured this as a trunk port. We've configured this as a trunk port, and this is a halfway trunk, so I have to go in this interface on this switch and configure this as a trunk port as well. So what we do is enable conf t interface fast Ethernet 0/23, and what we would do is we will type in this command, switch port mode trunk. We'll save it. So now this interface between switch 2 and 3 is a trunk port. Now I'm not finished yet. Let me get out of here. Show VTP status. As you can see, this is server mode. So therefore, here's the top dog switch, so to speak. Well, not really, because if we go to this switch right here and we do a show VTP status, you see is this operating mode on this switch as well as server. And if I go to this switch, it's going to be a server mode switch as well. Show VTP status. And you can see it's server mode. So basically, when a Cisco switch comes out of the box by default, it's automatically set to VTP mode server. But we don't want that. Again, we want to make this switch right here a client mode switch, a transparent mode switch, and another client mode switch. I'm not going to bother to work on these switches over here, but I will work on these switches over here. So what we would do is come back to the distro switch, and we'll use another command. So what we do is we go back to global configuration mode. You might want to type this command out fully for the exam. I'm not sure if they will allow you to use any shortcut commands, but just in case they don't allow you, just remember configure terminal to get to the global configuration mode. And what we would do is the command that you want to type in is VTP mode. And if I hit question mark, I could choose whether I want this switch to be server, client, or transparent. Well, it's already set to server mode, so I don't have to worry about setting the mode. However, I do have to set the VTP domain, which is right here. As you can see, there is no VTP domain name right now. It's behind the scenes, it's set to null as in NULL. That's the name behind the scenes. In order for the switches, in order for this switch to send switches, in order for this server switch to send client mode switches, its VLAN's configuration, the switches have to be in the same domain. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So what I have to do is name this, and we'll name it distro in all uppercase letters. Oh, sorry about that. It's VTP. The command is VTP domain distro. And you see the name changed from changing VTP domain name from null to distro. And we just do a do save. So we've named it all uppercase distro. So now we'll come into this switch and we have to make 2 changes. We'll go to VTP mode and we will give it client, and we will go to VTP domain distro, do dr, and we'll go to this switch and do the same thing, configure or conf t, but I just spell out the entire thing, configure terminal VTP mode, and this switch we said we want it to be a transparent switch, so transparent VTP domain, domain distro. We save that, and we'll do the same thing here, conf t, and we will do VTP mode client VTP domain distro. And we save the command. Okay, so all of these switches, from this switch to these 3 switches at the bottom, they're all within the same VTP domain. Now, let's see what happens once I turn these interfaces on. Let's see. We'll go to interface gig 0/1. Oh, I forgot 1/01. No shut. Turn on the interface. Let's see. And we would do on this switch conf t interface gig 0/1. And I didn't mean to put conf t. I was already in global configuration mode. So we do no shut. Okay, now the port coming up. So I've never really shut down this port. It was just in a down state because it wasn't connected to anything because I had this interface over here down. So what we would do is come over here, interface fast Ethernet 0/24, no shut. Come over here, interface is up. So let me see, show IP interface brief. Let's see what we have going on. So 23 and 24, they're both up over here. And let's go over here, show IP interface brief. Fast Ethernet 2, which is the laptop is connected to, and Fast Ethernet 23 on this is up. So now, if you guys remember, did I do a show? VLAN. But again, I never configured a VLAN on this switch. Y'all only see me configure the VLANs on this. I did not configure VLAN on this switch at all. Now, when I come back to this switch and I do a show VLAN brief, guess what? Here we have it, the 5 new VLANs that I've created on the distro switch. VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And that's part of the Vlan Trunking Protocol. So what ended up happening was the distro switch pushed that information down to switch 1. And switch 1 stored that information, like I said earlier, because that's what client modes do. Client mode switches, they take that information, they store it in this configuration file, the vlan.dat files, and then it sends the information off to its neighbor switch, which is this switch right here. But let's see if switch 2 learned these 5 VLANs of 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. And it did not. As you can see, VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 is not on this switch. And why is that the case? And matter of fact, before I tell you that, let's go to this switch because it's client mode. Let's see if it learned any VLANs. Those 5 VLANs. And it didn't. The reason that switch 2 did not learn VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or should I say it didn't store it in its configuration file, the vlan.dat files, is because this switch is transparent mode. So if I do show Vtp status, as you can see, it's in the same domain as the other switches. It's just transparent mode. So what this switch did was when switch 1 sent this information down to switch 2, switch 2 was just like, yeah, I hear you, but I'm not going to save this information in my files, in my configuration, and I'm not going to send it out. This interface of 23, the switch 3's interface of fast Ethernet 23. So what it did was it just never sent it out. It basically dropped it. It listened, and it basically said, I'm not sending it out my outgoing interface. But if I shut down this port right quick, and again, you see that's on this switch, VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 does not exist on this switch of 2, on switch 2, and it doesn't exist on switch 3. Let's see what happens when I make this switch a client mode switch. So what I'll do is I come under here and the global configuration mode, and I go to interface fast 0-23, and I shut down this interface. Shut. So as you can see, this interface is now turned off, and what I would do is I'll exit just to get out of interface mode, and what I would do is go back to VTP not domain, but VTP mode, and I will name it client. So we set the VTP mode to client, and what I would do is verify just to make sure that it is client. VTP show VTP status, the command to verify, and as you can see, this mode is client. So now what we would do is we go back to global configuration mode, go back to interface fast Ethernet 0/23, and we'll bring this port back up by issuing the command no shut, and now this interface is coming back up. So we'll wait for a little bit for these interfaces to go through spanning tree, listen, learn, and forward state or whatnot. So I made this switch by default. So if you look at this, and this is about spanning tree. So if I do show spanning tree VLAN 10, this bridges the root. This is the MAC address right here. This is the bridge ID of this current distro switch. This is the MAC address of this current switch. This is the MAC address, and this bridges the root, and it has the MAC address of the root bridge, which is the distro switch. And I made this, and I didn't have to make it the root bridge. I just did it so it could be a clean slate, because that's what you will really want to do. So whatever the VTP server is in your enterprise network, you will want that switch to be your root bridge switch as well. It wouldn't make any sense to have this be this switch right here, for example, it wouldn't make any sense for switch 3 to be the server, yet the distro switch is the switch that's handing out information through VTP. That's not good, especially when it comes down to wanting to troubleshoot or anything like that. But anyways, if we go back to switch 2, as we brought out earlier, as we seen earlier, this switch did not have any VLANs. It didn't have VLANs 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. But let's go back and see what happens now. Show VLAN brief. Huh. Still didn't get it. Okay. That's where troubleshooting 101 comes in that. Give me one moment to look at something. Let me do show interface trunk. Okay, let's see. Let me see here. Show interface trunk on this switch. Okay, show VTP status. Okay, it's under distro. VTP operate mode as client. Let's see here. It learned the VLANs from the distro switch. Okay, so let me check the interfaces then. Show IP interface brief. They should be up. Up. 24 is up. Let me see. Yeah, because your port, you learned it from here, so I'm not worried about this one. So this is port 24. Okay, so gig 01 is up and 24 is up. Okay, let's go back right quick. Let's see something. You know what? What we'll do is this wouldn't hurt. We'll go into fast Ethernet 0/24. Do a shut. No shut. Show interface trunk. There we go. So I had to do a shut, no shut command on 24. So I probably have to do the same on this interface too. T interface fast Ethernet 0/23 shut. No shut. Sometimes you have to reboot the port sometimes. So let's do this. Show VTP status. Make sure your client and you are in the distro domain. So let's do a show VLAN brief. And there we have it. So that's what I had to do. I had to go in there and just do a reset on the ports. That's all I had to do. So we do a show VLAN brief. There we have it. And you guys remember earlier where I was at the distro switch and I was entering these commands right here. These highlighted commands. You notice I did not go into any of these switches, this one, nor this one, to the configure it. That's what VTP does. That's the VTP Trunking Protocol. It traverses the VLAN. So once the distro, again, is push out its information down this link to this switch. If it's a client mode, it's going to store the information in its configuration file, send that information off to its neighbor, which is right here. And this switch would do the same thing as switch 1. And then it was send that information off to this switch. And that's the reason why switch 3 was able to learn the VLANs that I configured on the distro switch. And the trunk ports, they run 802.1q. So 802.1q is basically just basically tagging VLAN IDs. That's all it is. So if I want to send data, matter of fact, and I'll show you what I mean. So this port right here, we'll give it an IP address of 192.168.10.1, 255.255.255.0, and that's it. And we will give you an ID as well. Not an ID, but an IP address. 192.168.10.2 with a /24 mask. See, okay, and what we would do is I'm over here. Let me see. Show IP interface brief. that is port number 1. So what we would do is we would use this command, conft interface fast Ethernet 0/1, and this is right here, this port right here that's connected to the switch. This will be an access port, and the access port means you can only have 2 VLANs. Some people say 1, but technically it's 2. Now you may say, no, it's not. It's only 1. But let me stop you right there. For access ports, you can use it for your data VLANs for your computers, and then if you have any voice over IP phones, you use that for your voice VLANs. So it's really 2 VLANs, because your data VLAN can be VLAN 10, for example, but then your voice VLAN can be 166. However you have it set up in your organization. So really on access ports, it can only have up to 2 VLANs. Again, that's for your data, for your laptops or your PCs. And if you have any voice over IP phones, you use that for your voice VLANs. So what we would do is we'll come under this interface and we'll use this command, switch port mode access. That's saying this port is going to be an access port, so it's only allowed to have 2 VLANs basically. That's what this command is basically saying. So this is not a trunk port, it's an access port. So VLANs cannot traverse like with a trunk port, how you can have hundreds of VLANs traversing through that interface. You cannot do that in access mode. Only 2 VLANs. And then switch port access VLAN 10. And this command is basically saying, hey, put fast Ethernet 0/1, have this interface be a member of VLAN 10. And then I'll do switch port no negotiate. And this command is basically turning off dynamic trunking protocol to negotiate a trunk. That's basically what it is, just turning off the negotiations. I would do a Spanish tree port fast enable. Oh, I don't have to do that, just Spanish tree port fast. And this command is used where if you know you're gonna have like a server or a PC or a laptop that's going to be connected to that port, it's basically saying, hey, skip the 15 seconds of listening state, skip the 15 seconds of learning state. Just go, just jump, just turn on. So a lot of times this port will turn on within 2 to 3 seconds. So you'll save yourself 28, 27 seconds of, or 30 seconds really from going through the listen and learn state. So you're saving yourself a lot of time. And I'll save it. And what I'll do the same thing on this switch. Conft interface. What port is this? Show IP interface brief. Okay, so it's port 2 over here. Okay, so we'll do interface fast Ethernet 0/2 switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10, switch port no negotiate, Spanish tree port fast. I know that. And if you do show VLAN brief, fast Ethernet 0/2 should be in VLAN 10. There we have it. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Even though this PC is on a different switch, let's see if I can ping from this laptop to this laptop. Let's see if it works. Ping 192.168.10.2. And there we have it. The ping went through, and if I come back over here and I maximize the screen, do a ping 192.168.10.1. And there we have it. And the reason, even though they was on different switches, the reason I'm able to communicate from this PC over here, which is residing on switch 3, to the PC residing on switch 1, the reason they're able to talk because of this Vlan Trunking Protocol. VLAN 10 is traversing through this trunk interface. So if I come back to this switch 3, and do a show interface trunk. There we have it. As you can see, VLANs allowed and active in management domain. VLAN 10. VLANs in spanning tree forward in state and not prune. VLAN 10. And it was this interface right here. Once I go to this switch right here, it's going to be the same way. Show interface trunk. VLANs 10 is traversing through that. So what ended up happening was this PC sent this data out this interface, and it had a VLAN. It was tagged with VLAN 10 on it, so it sent it through this switch because, like I said, this interface right here has VLAN 10 traversing through it, and this switch sent it out to this switch, and this switch is basically saying, okay, where's this switch going? I'll show you what I mean. Show MAC address table. As you can see, there we have it. So if I just hover over this laptop, the MAC address is ending in 8AA50. And we have it right there. It's in VLAN 10. And it learned it through Fast Ethernet 24, which is right here. So this switch thinks that this laptop, it learned it, not think, but this port of Fast Ethernet 0/24, it learned this MAC address of this laptop because, like I said, it sent the data from this laptop to this switch to this switch, and this switch to that switch, and this is port 24. So this switch thinks this laptop is residing on interface 0/24, but we know that's not true because right here is Fast Ethernet 23, and this port right here is Fast Ethernet 0/2. And in a nutshell, that is VTP. VTP is used again to have VLANs VTP is used basically to have VLANs traverse on trunking ports, and you configure a server mode switch that is in charge of distributing the VLANs to the other switches. Now, if that switch is in transparent mode, like this one was before, it would not share that information. And let me show you all something right quick. One more thing before I end this video. If I do a show VLAN brief, we see we have no VLAN 60. But on this switch right here, I'll create a VLAN 60. Conf T. And if I do show VLAN brief, you see VLAN 60 does not exist. VLAN 60 name, we'll just name it VPN-testers. And if we do a show interface trunk, VLAN 60 has not reached within the spanning tree forward in the state yet. So if I keep hitting it, it'll eventually, just give it some time, and VLAN 60 will show up at the bottom. Just give it some time, and there we have it. It's right there. So since I've configured a new VLAN, this switch right here should know about VLAN 60 now. And there we have it. It just took some time, but it learned about it. And as you can see, it wasn't there at first. But if I do a show VLAN brief verification command, there we have it. VPN testers on VLAN 60. And I did not go into this switch and configure it. Even if you wanted to configure a VLAN, and I'll show you guys right quick before I end off this video. Conf T. And we go to VLAN 70. You see, VTP VLAN configuration not allowed when device is in client mode. So when you have a switch in client mode, you cannot configure any VLANs. You can do that on transparent mode switches, but you cannot do that with client mode switches. And whatever VLAN that you configure on a transparent mode switch, that switch will not share it with anybody, it would have that VLAN within its own local VLAN database. And in a nutshell, that is VTP, VLANs, trunks, ports, and I threw a little bit of access port in there as well. So if you made it this far, guys, I really do, or gals, I really do appreciate you taking the time out your day to watch this video, and I hope this video was informative to you. If you have any questions, please leave comments in the comment section below, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Or if you have any questions, you can follow me on Twitter at networkguy_Dave, and on Instagram at networkguy_Dave. So with that being said, guys, I'm about to go ahead and end off this video. And again, I want to say thank you for tuning in to this video. I'm about to go ahead and get into my CCNP security score studies right now. So that's the certification that I'm currently studying for right now. It's the CCNP security score exam. So I'll go ahead and get myself started with that. And like I said, if you have any questions, leave comments in the comment section below, or you can reach out to me via social media. And if this video was informative for you, please press that like button. And also, if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. I have more content coming to the channel soon. And with that being said, guys and gals, have a good day.